Welcome to the Bigger Room podcast. I'm your host, Mel Cobian.
And I'm Jill Bender. And today we're going to kind of give you a end of year closeout topic and task, I guess. Or yeah. And it's write it and release it. So write it and release it is a super easy concept. You write it down and you release it, and we'll go into a little bit of detail about that, but most people are not going to do it, even if they listen to our episode and we give them this super, super, super simple skill.
Yeah.
Probably 1% will actually do it. Why do you think that is? People are lazy.
They're lazy, and it's always like, what's in it for me kind of thing. There's just no belief behind advice, really.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's in it for me?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, really, you nailed it. Like, it's too much of an effort.
Yeah.
And they don't see what is in it for them, and putting in that effort, but not getting an immediate
return.
Return
for their work, even if it's as simple as writing stuff down.
Okay, so write it and release it. This is not a new concept, but things are blocking you from becoming the person you want to be. Things are blocking you from being that skinny person or fit person that you desire. Things are blocking you from becoming a millionaire or getting into a relationship. Maybe that's something that you're looking for, you know. Those are the three big, what people search online for the most, right? Wealth, health, and relationships. So write it and release it. You come across anything, there are probably thousands of things that are blocking you from becoming the person that you want. So let's just focus on wealth, because that's what you and I, how we met and what we know a lot about. There are money blocks that people have, and it often comes from how they were raised, how they're influenced by their parents, their surroundings, the type of neighborhoods they grew up in or towns they grew up in. You live in the south side of Chicago, is going to be a very different experience from living on Lakeshore Drive in Chicago. You're surrounded by money. You are going to have you'll still have some sort of money blocks, most likely, but they're going to be way less than somebody that grew up in poverty. So have you ever done a write it and release it exercise?
I have. It is very healing, because often I think that a lot of it has to do with people automatically don't think like, oh, I'm going to write my feelings down, because we're never really encouraged to do that.
No.
And
sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I wonder, this generation that's coming up now, like where my son is, and they do talk about their feelings a little bit more.
Definitely.
I wonder if that's going to change then, because our my generation, but it sounds like yours too, like we were taught to stifle those feelings. You have no feelings.
yeah, millennials definitely still experience that. It was kind of like, we did start to rebel and kind of say, voice our feelings to adults, whether it was in school or parents, etc., but we'd still either get hit. So it was, we'd get hit or punished, or get a referral, suspended, expelled, things like that. So there were still repercussions for talking about your feelings, which is very, very refreshing to see the younger generations talk about their feelings, like, hey, let's sit down. Or I guess people talk about that generation, or even the young kids like your son's age, but at the same time it's like, oh, we didn't have that. So it's let's honor that, because emotions lead to events, right? An emotion that you feel leads to an event. And so if we don't process those emotions, because again, you're feeling anxiety, depressed, or fear about something, then you're going to attract that. So we have to take the time to write those feelings and finally release them, because I know that we've talked about this before in a podcast, where a lot of our feelings or emotions that are unaddressed often lead to our childhood. Or that one
Mhm.
time that Nancy in PE tripped
Mhm.
you and made fun of you, and now you never want to wear your hair a certain way. You
Yeah.
know, like it goes that deep. And until we sit down and release them and forgive yourself, it's a
Yeah.
whole freaking process. You realize, like, oh my gosh, that is still with me. That is
Yep.
still with me.
So Mel
Yeah.
mentions a very good point of how this process works. So once you acknowledge something, and it can be something so small, like something like this tiny little granule of dirt that got stuck in your fuel filter and now your vehicle is not running. Like the
Yeah.
tiniest little dirt is blocking you from becoming the person you want to become. And this is a process. It is a slow process too. I mean, the more you do it, the better it's going to get, of course, with anything. But it trying to find those little grains of dirt and sand, it is very hard. Like I know how I was raised around money, totally screwed me up, but there's other little things that I didn't realize. I mean, of course, because this is part of the exercise, you don't realize that these are also contributing to your money block. So it could be
Hmm.
something as small as maybe you're at school and, in fifth grade, here's my example. Here's my exposing me, because that's what I like to do on these podcasts, right? In fifth grade, The Simpsons were huge. It was around the time that The Simpsons were getting popular. They probably came out when I was in third or fourth grade. Fifth grade, my dad brought us home. My brother and I wanted like a shirt. Everybody had Bart Simpson shirts, and it was the coolest stuff to wear. So my dad came home with 2 shirts. I don't even know where he got them from. One of them had color, and the other one was more of a white shirt with a Bart Simpson drawn on the shirt kind of thing. So it was just black pencil, not pencil, but black stitching on whatever it was, print. And I got to pick first, but I took forever to pick. I remember because I didn't know which one was cooler. And my younger brother, he was always like the coolest. So I wanted him to tell me which one was cool, but he's going to pick the one he wants to keep. So he's going to tell me the other one, right? This whole thing is screwing me up already. You can tell I haven't fully released it. So I picked the one with the stitching, or the plain one, not colored. And I wore it to school the next day, and this kid, Jeremy Pfeiffer, he made fun of me and he said I had a generic shirt. And yeah, and I was so upset. And I forgot about that, but rest in peace. He just passed away, like in the last
Mm.
couple of months. And I remember saying, like, he was always kind of a jerk to me. And I said, well, specifically in fifth grade. And I had this whole memory come back. That's a block. That was a block. And so, for you guys listening, what I would do is I acknowledge that block now. So I wrote it down. That's me acknowledging it. And then I forgive Jeremy for saying it to me. I forgive myself for how I reacted to it and how I've held on to it forever. And I thank it for being part of my life for this long. And then I say goodbye and I release it. So
That's
it's a
beautiful.
simple exercise, just digging in and finding those little tiny things. So it's a process.
It's such a process, and it's not easy because depending on the situation and how deep it runs, right? We're talking about not saying that, one is a wound is bigger than another, but for some people, depending on how deep that wound is,
Mm-hmm.
forgiving someone that's never going to apologize is what's going to set you free because they have so much power over you. And
Mm-hmm.
when you think about it that way, you realize, like, oh my gosh, like I gave my power away. No one deserves to take that power away any longer. And so the example, like what you're talking about, is the example that one of my teachers taught me was, you know, have you ever gotten punched so hard that you can think back to the pain you felt? That's exactly
Yeah.
what happens. Yes, it was like I don't know if you've ever gotten punched so hard that you can think back to the
Um,
pain, or if you've ever hit yourself or stubbed your toe so hard that you can think about it right now,
oh,
like yeah, like right,
yeah.
you just felt it, right? That is exactly what happens to your subconscious mind every single day with certain events that are happening. You're literally reliving a punch. You're reliving, stubbing your toe. You're reliving that trauma,
Hmm.
right? But you're not getting punched right now. You're not actively stubbing your toe right now.
Jeremy's never going to say anything to me again.
Right.
Literally.
Jeremy, yeah, he fulfilled his soul contract, and he taught you something. And so if we think like that, like, that situation happened because it was meant to teach me something, and it was meant to teach you something, right? As hard as it is.
Yeah.
And that's how we get our power back. So we digest those emotions, do Jill's exercise, and it will start healing some wounds that are meant to
And I
be acknowledged.
want to add this. So just because I released it, the Jeremy story in the Simpsons, shirt, just because I released it doesn't always mean it just simply went away. So I might need to release it a couple times. So there's
Exactly.
some, like Mel's saying, these ones that could be so deep, and the first couple times you release it, it could be kind of superficial. You weren't really letting it go. You weren't ready to let it go. But over time, with more of the practice and more exercise, we may have to repeat certain ones a few times.
You absolutely will. You absolutely will. But it gets easier, and instead of getting so lost in the emotions, you can be like, okay, you start the wound starts softening. It starts
Hmm.
scarring, right? And that's where we need to get, because the alternative is running away. It's running away. No, or I refuse to forgive. I refuse to do that. So living your life from that wounded place is living your life from giving your power away. So you're worth living in your power. So I've definitely heard, like, what's the worst thing that can happen to people, right? So there's definitely those situations that people have to go through. And I've definitely seen the magic that happens when people do forgive the other person.
Yeah. So you have, if you're having a struggle of getting to a certain financial point, or maybe finding a partner to share life with, weight loss goals, whatever, sit down, start releasing things, start acknowledging they exist. They are literally
Yes,
blocking you. Acknowledge
they are.
them, thank them for their purpose throughout your life. They are no longer needed for their, thank you for their service,
Thank you for
and
your
say
service.
goodbye to them. Yeah. And I know we're going to wrap this one up, but my son watches a show on Disney called Big City Greens. If anybody has Disney Plus, it's a cartoon, but it's freaking hysterical. Whoever wrote this is just hilarious. But there's an episode where the grandma is like always just she'll freak out. She flies off the handle. She's hilarious, but she just flies off the handle and the drop of die. Anything will piss her off, and it's funny how she reacts. She usually comes running with a sword. Like, she is a funny character. But there's an episode where her business partner, who is a young, like, barely out of high school girl, her business partner said, "Oh, there's a new series I want you to watch," and it's this lady, and she's very calm, and she talks about decluttering your life and simplifying all, like, your personal belongings. And so of course the grandma overreacts and like, "I'm not doing that, whatever." And then she finally is like, "Okay, I will." So the grandma was told by the lady on the video to take the item, that you no longer need. "Thank you for everything that you've done for me. I release you." And I think it's kind of like, "I love you," and give it a kiss, and then she throws it in the garbage. She's like, "I'm not doing this. This is stupid," or whatever. And so then the lady kind of, at that moment in the episode, pops up and says, You do it in your own words. Do it what feels comfortable to you, so that she no longer says I love you or anything. She just says, thank you for your service. Now get out of here, or something,
Mm.
kind of funny.
Mm.
But it was a really good episode because it's exactly write it and release it, but it was with physical objects. They no longer serve you. They're just bogging your mind down and blocking you from moving on, basically. So
Yeah.
acknowledge them, thank them, and kick them out of your house, kick them out of your memories, kick them out of
Yeah.
release them. They're no longer needed. That's it for today.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, we'll see you next week.